Good morning, everyone. We're just going to give it a few minutes for participants to join before we kick this off. So um, let's just wait a few minutes. Hope everyone is anticipating spring. I know I am. We're having a rainy morning in Maine, but I hear it's sunny in Rhode Island, so good for you. It's coming our way. Okay, I saw that the participant list kind of leveled out, so I'm going to get us started on today's Rhode Island Grant Funding Workshop. Thank you for coming. I'm Martha Shields. I direct the New England Environmental Finance Center and the SNEP Network. And we designed today's webinar to give you the resources to address some of the biggest challenges that we hear over and over again from communities and tribes that they have when they try to address their water quality problems. And that is, number one, where do I find the funding I need to get my project done? And number two, who can help me with the technical assistance to get me to the phase where I could think about funding my project so we can implement them? Today's webinar, we will describe some of that technical assistance. In this case, it's free technical assistance. And then you'll hear from a dozen funders describing their programs. But first, maybe a few words about the SNEP program. The SNEP program was established in 2012 in partnership with EPA Region 1. And to date, over $50 million have been spent to support restoration and preservation of the watersheds and other water quality projects in the Southeast New England geography. We have already seen the positive environmental and socioeconomic impacts that the SNEP program has led because it's led to lasting solutions for communities and tribes in this geography. The SNEP network that is hosting this webinar is just one of the projects supported by the SNEP program. The SNEP network is now in its 6th year. And over the years, we've seen the number of communities and nonprofits and tribes taking advantage of our assistance grow. And it's growing because the SNEP technical assistance helps communities tee up other funding opportunities so that they can get their projects implemented. This is important to these communities and tribes because the need for climate resilience and clean water is only going to become more critical as we confront changing weather patterns. Slide 2, please. I'll go over today's agenda briefly, and the first thing we'll do is I'll do a little housekeeping, and then I will do a brief introduction of what the New England Environmental Finance Center is, and then I'll hand it over to our New England EFC team to talk about the free technical assistance that we can provide with leveraged grants, with other grants that we have, and with the SNEP grant. Then we'll hear from our panel of Rhode Island funders describing their programs, what projects they fund, their timelines, etc. After the funding panel, there will be a group question and answer period. And after that, the funders will each be put into their own breakout rooms. And all the participants on this webinar can then jump between those breakout rooms and ask any questions of the funders that they might have about their particular grants. All the slides and recordings will be shared after this webinar. Next slide, please. This is the housekeeping portion. You probably all know this, but you can ask questions in the Q&A box in your Zoom control panel. If you have any technical issues, use the chat feature to connect with the webinar host. Webinar will be recorded and we'll send you the recording after the meeting. And to use the closed caption option, you can see it at the bottom of your Zoom bar, and you just need to click on that and you'll be able to access closed caption. Next slide, please. Okay, a few words about the New England Environmental Finance Center. We are one of many environmental finance centers across the nation. We are funded by the Environmental Protection Agency. The New England EFC has been around for over 24 years now, and our mission is to build local and regional project capacity. We are based at the University of Maine system in Portland, Maine, but we work throughout the New England states, all the New England states of EPA Region 1. Our mission is to build community capacity to fund and finance environmental priorities. And those priorities are climate resilience and water systems. And we prioritize working with underserved and environmental justice communities. We have several programs under the New England EFC. One of them is the SNEP network, as I mentioned earlier. Another one of our bigger projects is the New England Water Infrastructure Network, where we work with wastewater treatment plants, drinking water systems, and we also work on non-point source and green infrastructure for stormwater. That is called NEWIN. You'll hear about that in a minute. And one of our other projects is called Better Bev, and that is when we work with the craft beverage industry of Maine and New England on operational efficiencies. Next slide, please. And this is how we can help communities advance. In short, we give the assistance needed to get communities and tribes to the phase where they can fund and finance their projects. And then we help them afterwards with making sure that they can project manage their grants. And we're there for them at any point in time. And that includes any community in the EPA Region 1 area. Next slide, please. I'm handing this now over to Alex Gulachensky. She is our Senior Program Manager for the SNEP Network, and she'll take you through the highlights of what the SNEP Network is all about. Go ahead, Alex. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Martha, and thanks so much for that introduction. Yeah, I'm going to share a little bit about the SNEP network. Like Martha said, we are the assistance, kind of technical assistance capacity located within the SNEP EPA region, which you can see here on the slide is Southeastern Mass and Rhode Island. We were formed in 2019 through a cooperative agreement with EPA, and we are a growing collaborative network of 16 local, well-known, on-the-ground organizations located in this region. We're regional planning agencies, nonprofit organizations, university-based organizations, and we have a wide range of expertise in topics relating to stormwater management, sustainable financing, ecological restoration, low impact development, et cetera. And we're really focused on offering free trainings, free leadership development, financial assistance, and we work with municipalities, organizations, and tribes. Our goal really is to empower and increase the capacity of communities in this region to achieve healthy watershed and long-term climate resilience. Next slide. Yeah, and like Martha said, a lot of the projects located at the New England Environmental Finance Center are really focused on that spectrum of moving projects from, ideation, prioritization, all the way to implementation and maintenance. And within that, our network is really focused on 3 interconnected kind of pillars of service. And there's a cross-cutting theme of really selecting topics and projects that are accessible to many communities, relevant to the region as a whole, and can be repeatable, really with the focus of reaching every community within the SNEP region. So first and foremost, we offer trainings and webinars. We have a library of dozens and dozens of pre-recorded webinars and trainings on our website on a variety of topics and tools that are really relevant to folks within Rhode Island. We do in-person trainings as well as in-depth workshop series with a real focus on peer-to-peer learning exchange, community facilitation, and cohort-based learning models. One kind of pillar of our training program is our stormwater planning series. This is a yearly training that we offer with a collaboration of many of our partners with expertise in really developing nature-based stormwater retrofits within communities, and it guides communities through the process of identifying retrofits all the way up to conceptual design. We also do, of course, do direct technical assistance with communities. There's two pathways in which we really reach communities within the region. We have a portal on our website for on-demand TA requests. If you have a question, if you're, working on an application, you want to get connected with a community within our network, feel free to submit a portal request. We have on the ground project managers in Rhode Island. You'll meet Elizabeth Scott, who's the Rhode Island liaison later. She responds to those requests and really helps match requests to our partners. We also do a yearly solicitation for more in-depth, longer-term technical assistance for communities. This is really a bigger kind of project support to advance a project towards design and implementation. This often can also include engineering design support from consultants that we have already created a pool of and can kind of pull on easily to support projects. You can actually see dozens of examples of past communities that we've worked with and funded projects that we've supported over the years to get an idea. That application is going to open up in July, so we'll have a lot more information about that soon on our website. Lastly, because we're a collaborative network of partners who are constantly working with communities and kind of identifying common challenges, we're really focused on creating collective solutions at the regional scale. So we have created a lot of tailored tools and resources on our website, and we're constantly looking and working together with communities to identify other potentially relevant tools. Some of the examples that we have on our website, we have a stormwater retrofit manual, we have property owners' guides to stormwater management, we have a bylaw and ordinance kind of regulatory review tool and checklist to kind of identify best management practices for low impact development as well. And yeah, I think I really encourage folks to check out our website to find out all the different types of resources that we can support with and to kind of catch those upcoming dates. Next slide. And then lastly, like I said, we are a collaborative network. We would not be here without all of the partners that we have on the ground across the region. You might already know these folks. Here are our partners. And then if you would like to learn more, please check out our website. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our next speaker, Matt Duff, who's going to talk about the New England Water Infrastructure Network.
Thank you, Alex. Hello, everyone. It's really nice to be here. Thank you all for being here today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our New England Water Infrastructure Program, or what we call NEWIN, and how we can help communities like yours access essential funding for your water and infrastructure needs. At NEWIN, our primary mission is relatively straightforward, but we consider it to be pretty critical, which is helping communities secure funding for key water-related infrastructure. And so we're talking drinking water, wastewater, stormwater management, non-point source pollution. Essentially, if your community has a water infrastructure challenge, our goal is to try to help you meet that need and meet the community at whatever stage of the process they currently are at. We focus primarily on helping communities leverage the clean water and drinking water state revolving funds, the SRFs, but we also assist in accessing and identifying various other funding sources. So this assistance can take many forms, but it typically includes developing customized technical, financial, or managerial solutions to your water challenges. We have a fantastic team of experts, and to accomplish being able to help you with all these diverse and varied tasks, we have a network of core partners who we work closely with on these projects. And so those partners include Moonshot Missions, UMass Boston Sustainable Solutions Lab, RCAP Solutions, Quantified Ventures, and the University of New Hampshire Stormwater Center. And they all bring a great depth of expertise in various environmental fields, including financial planning and strategizing, engineering, asset management, reviews of stormwater infrastructure and capacity, as well as just generally working closely with communities through engagement and outreach. We also have a pool of pre-vetted consultants who we can call upon to fill any gaps or who may have more of a niche expertise that might be needed for your specific project. Next slide, please. So who exactly does NEWIN work with? So we partner closely with everyone from federal government agencies and state departments, down to municipalities and even community-based organizations. We work alongside tribes, water utilities, manufactured housing communities, engineers, consultants, and our strength lies in these diverse partnerships, which allow us to effectively bridge that gap between unique water challenges your community is facing and the possible funding opportunities that can try to make some of those solutions turn into a reality. Next slide, please. So how do we actually go about doing this and providing this assistance? Well, Nguyen's approach, it can vary conceivably. Nguyen's approach can conceivably cover every step in that infrastructure funding journey. So we believe that securing funding isn't just about that application stage. It starts way, way before that, and it can continue long after you submit all of that paperwork. And so that's why our support can span 5 key phases. So we can assist with partnerships and engagement, building relationships and understanding what your community needs. We can assist with planning and assessment, helping you identify exactly what's needed and what can be achievable. We can also assist with guiding communities through project development, so where we can translate some of those plans that we develop and try to turn them into more concrete proposals. We also, of course, focus heavily on the funding and the financing because knowing how and where to secure and manage that funding is essential. In order to have any of these project dreams actually become a reality, we need to make sure that we're ensuring the funding and the financing is in place. And then finally, we're there for construction and overall project management, so we can help ensure that the funded projects move smoothly from those ideas to actually completed infrastructure. In other words, we're with you from the early stages of figuring out what your community might need, and we can stay involved right through the whole process to the final completion of the project. And so if you're trying to get assistance from Nguyen, it's a pretty easy process. You can go to our website at neefc.org/water infrastructure, and we have an intake form that you can fill out. And whether you're just getting started out with these ideas or if you're ready to apply for funding, we encourage you to contact us. We're here to help guide you and can assist you step by step to ensure that your community is successfully securing and using the funding that it needs to tackle whatever infrastructure projects you might be facing. Thanks.
Sorry about that. Next up, we have Andrea Berry, who's going to talk about the Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Center. Okay, Andrea.
Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Andrea Berry. I'm the Climate Funding Manager here at the New England Environmental Finance Center. Have the pleasure to working with Alex and Martha and Matt and the rest of the team and Leah. So one of our key projects that we are working on is the Environmental Justice Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Center, which is a mouthful. And so we use the term TICTAC as the short form abbreviation. The Technical Assistance Center, the TICTAC, is based out of Yukon. And then we have a number of partners who come together in a collaborative network to provide services to organizations and communities across New England. It's us here, along with Yukon, it's us here at the New England Environmental Finance Center. Then we're joined by UMass Boston's Institute for New England Native American Studies. We work closely with the Environmental Protection Network and the New England Rural Health Association. So what do we do at the TICTAC? The New England Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Center builds capacity throughout EPA's Region 1, so that's the 6 New England states and the federally recognized tribes within that catchment as well. Builds capacity specifically for BIPOC, underserved, and remote and rural communities to address environmental and energy justice concerns, serving as a resource and a technical assistance hub. The New England Environmental Justice TICTAC provides technical assistance services, education, outreach, community engagement, and environmental quality and health. We also work on energy justice, climate adaptation, and civic justice as well. We're here to serve a whole host of communities broader than some of the other technical assistance centers. So we can work both with municipalities and tribal nations, both state and federally recognized tribal nations, and nonprofits, community-based organizations, small businesses, water utilities, and so much more. So truly, if you were doing environmental justice work and climate adaptation and resilience work, please do get in touch with us. We're excited to help. Next slide, please. So we truly have a broad scope as well. So many things fall under the auspice of environmental justice and climate adaptation work. We are available to help on environmental quality issues from air quality monitoring, water treatment, different types of land use and nature-based solutions, waste management, recycling and composting, as well as any type of sustainability work that you might be doing in your community. We also support energy justice, solar access and clean transit, broadband access, all of those different items. Climate adaptation, again, is also quite broad, and we can support in a variety of different types of projects, from risk assessments to community engagement, project planning, social resilience, and getting folks to a place where they can present a project and access funding. And then we do work in environmental health as well, from lead mitigation, asthma reduction, clean drinking water, etc. Next slide, please. So what kind of help can we offer? Again, kind of, throw it at us and see if we can help. In most cases, we can provide some level of support. Right now, we're doing a large amount of grant preparation and submission help. The Environmental Justice for New England grant program that you'll hear about later in today's presentation works in parallel with us here at the Technical Assistance Center, and we're able to give one-on-one support for that grant program, including reading and reviewing proposal drafts or helping you to figure out what type of work might be a good match. We do everything from connecting you to different funding resources and doing funding scans to reading proposals, all the way, if you give us enough time, we can do line edits and give you direct feedback in order to make sure that you're submitting the strongest proposals and are in the best position to access funds. We do technical consultations. We have a whole host of folks, especially at UConn, who have different professional backgrounds who we can match you with to help on a variety of different projects, like under the different topic areas that I mentioned before, and have specialty in community engagement so that we can help with community voice within your efforts and project planning, as well as mitigation of kind of challenges you can see coming down the road. And then we are excited to be able to provide a whole host of training and program tools, from webinars, live presentations. We're developing some video-based learning workshops and providing technical tools and a funding roadmap. If you have ideas of things that you would like to learn about or you'd like us to explore, that's also a great opportunity to get in touch with us and we can see what we can do. I'm going to drop our contact information into the chat, and yeah, we'll move on, but please get in touch. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Andrea. Okay, next up, we have Tess Clark from the Syracuse University Environmental Finance Center talking about the Environmental Finance Center Network.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alex, and happy Friday to all of you here with us today. The Environmental Finance Center Network is a university and nonprofit-based organization creating innovative solutions to the difficult how-to-pay issues of environmental protection. We serve all 50 states, as well as Native nations and the 5 territories. Many of our centers have been serving communities since the early 90s, and we've long partnered with our friends at the University of Southern Maine. So thank you, Martha and Alex, for having us today. They are a founding member of this network and involved with many of our projects, a few of which I'll cover today. Next slide, please. So currently we are offering technical assistance to small water systems and wastewater systems to address technical, managerial, and financial challenges typical in rural and tribal communities. So this includes small drinking water systems serving 10,000 people or fewer. It also includes small wastewater systems with an average flow of less than 1 million gallons per day. And it also includes decentralized systems, of which I know there are many in New England as well as in Rhode Island. So that's things like septic systems or cluster systems. Our partners collaborate nationally, and so we all bring very different flavors of expertise. This means that if you wanted to say work with somebody on an asset management plan, we could connect you with somebody from the University of New Mexico, and our regional anchors in Maine or myself at SU would work to connect you with those experts. Next slide. Okay, lastly, what does this support look like? I won't read this list to you, but I do want to call out a few areas. If your community is served by a small utility, we know there is a lot of need right now for things like GIS mapping. That's something that we can provide if your system is eligible. Additionally, I'll call out asset management planning. That is an area where this network has longstanding and enduring expertise. We're also doing things like working with water operators one-on-one, tutoring, operator math, all of that good stuff. Like I said, and similar to many of the programs here, we serve a broad range of areas. So please reach out with any questions. We do have our website at the bottom of the slide. And I'll close by saying that our teams collaborate very closely. So if you reach out to one of us, we will talk to each other and get in touch. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Tess, and thanks for calling that out at the end. I think that's a really good point. We are all very collaborative and working together to get folks the best support that they need. I'm going to pass it now over to Elizabeth Scott. Elizabeth is the SNEP Network Rhode Island liaison and is going to be introducing all of our funders today. Okay, take it away, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Alex. Hi, everybody. So great to be with you. And it's my great pleasure to introduce Anthony Hebert, who is a business development officer with the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank. And Anthony's going to have 10 minutes to talk to us about the programs that the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank is offering. Anthony?
Awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth. Glad to be here today. So I'll be talking about a couple of our programs. The first is a grant program. The second will be one of our larger loan programs. And I think you guys are pretty familiar with, a lot of you are probably pretty familiar with the Municipal Resilience Program, MRP. But I'll go over some planned changes to the program and when we can expect future updates on what the program will look like in the future as we go into the summer of 2025. So a little bit of background, we've done about 5 funding rounds to date through MRP, and we've allocated just under $25 million in action grants to municipalities around the state of Rhode Island. We've done 50 plus projects, and for grant applications, there is a 25% match. The program itself primarily funds resiliency-related activities for municipal projects. It usually revolves around flooding, though not necessarily flooding. It could be urban heat island, a couple other climate change-related hazards. But generally, it's flooding. It's stormwater-related, coastal, working on flood-proofing critical infrastructure like pump stations, culvert resizing, urban street tree planting. Those are the more common applications that we receive for the program. And every application that we receive is tied to a community some-year findings report that is done by the Nature Conservancy, which is our partner on MRP, and tied back to whatever the identified hazards are in that plan, how they will mitigate and adapt to those hazards. So like I said, it's usually flooding related, and especially with the intensity of the storms we've seen in the past several years, the different flooding events, it's taken on new urgency and it's become one of our prime programs that we're focused on here at the bank. So I've talked a little bit about the background of the program. I want to go into some plan changes for MRP in the future. For the first funding round, the bank had put up about $1 million or a couple $1 million of our own money to help seed capital to start the grant program. And then through the Green Economy Bond, I think it was $5 million, then that was at $16 million from 2022. And we've worked on drawing down those funds and allocating them to different municipal projects around the state over the past several years. And we were hoping for, I think we asked for about $30 million in the next Green Economy Bond. And we received $10 million, which was approved by voters. So excellent that we have $10 million. But the need that we've seen for funding to help mitigate and adapt to flooding hazards around the state, it's not currently met by the funding that we have for grants today. So we've been looking at creating a sustainable funding model that can work for grants, but can also work as a revolving fund to fund future projects as well. So some of the changes that we're looking at for MRP going into 2025 is establishing a resiliency-focused state revolving fund here at the bank using part of the MRP allocation. So we're thinking that for design, engineering, permitting, and for smaller, less complex projects, grants will still be available through MRP. But for larger, more complex construction projects that are, especially those that are multi-million-dollar projects, that we would need to then finance those projects through a resiliency revolving fund. And it would be similar to the program I'm going to talk about next and some of our other revolving funds that we manage here at the Infrastructure Bank, where there is a subsidy. It's usually a 33% subsidy on whatever the interest rate is on the loan. That is where we think the program is headed for this year. And like I said, the reason behind that is that we're trying to create a sustainable funding model to address all of the resiliency related hazards that we're seeing around the state. And that while grant funding is good, it gets part of the job done, not enough funding is available to date and what we'd like to see to address those issues. So we're going to try this out, see how it goes, and we're going to start making probably our first loans through the revolving fund probably later this spring. And then working on getting additional seed money for the program itself for later this year. So in general, for MRP, funding for planning, design, for outreach, modeling, permitting, of course, for construction, and generally those projects which are shovel ready receive priority. You can expect an RFP to be launched probably by mid to late summer for the next round of funding. So a couple of examples, we've done many projects today, but there's the Truman Drive project in Woonsocket, which is an urban greenway where they took, it was a 4 or maybe 6-lane road there and turned most of it into a parkway along the Blackstone River that included the Blackstone Lakeway just next to their main street and their down hall. It's a great green infrastructure project to help manage the stormwater runoff and also improve water quality going into the Blackstone River. And a lot of what we see as well is a lot of pump station and wastewater treatment facility projects. And we help flood-proof those areas, especially that are close to local rivers, and making sure they're not susceptible to flooding going forward. So there's a couple of examples, there's many more, but I think that's a pretty good overview of where we are with MRP. And I'll go into our next program for the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. So the Clean Water SRF, this is the bread and butter of the Infrastructure Bank. It's where we do the majority of our loan financing. It's where the bank started. So we do Clean Water SRF, and we also do drinking water projects. And those were the two programs the bank managed for years. And then only in some recent years, we've added additional programs to fund loans for transportation-related municipal improvements, loans related to public sector and nonprofit energy efficiency, and then also getting in more recently to MRP and into the resiliency world by doing grants and loans in that area. But Clean Water State Revolving Fund, this one we've done by over 1.5 billion in loan financing since program inception. Since 2020, we've done 300 million plus in loan financing around the state. And there is no set cap on what folks can request through the revolving fund. We do loans up to 20-year terms, and we have that interest rate subsidy. So whatever the client can get at market, it's 33% below that market interest rate. The one big requirement, and I'll emphasize this because the deadline is coming up, is that any project that we want funded through the Clean Water SRF, folks need to be on the Rhode Clean Water SRF PPL. And the PPL closes next Friday, the 28th at 4 or 5 p.m. Let's call it 4 p.m. just in case. So if you have any projects you're looking to finance and looking for financing from the bank in FY26, it must be on the Rhode PPL and have your submissions into Jenny Paquette and into Rhode before that deadline next Friday. And I have a link here at the bottom of the page for if folks get this afterwards. It will take you right to the application page on their website. But the Clean Water SRF funds wastewater, stormwater collection, treatment facilities, non-point source pollution, etc. Anything related to improving water quality in the state of Rhode Island, and in our watersheds, in our rivers, in our bodies of water, is what you're eligible to request financing for. So it can be planning, design, engineering, going for construction, and so generally sort of public entities, local water authorities and districts, and then some private entities are also eligible. And certain entities operating in distressed communities are eligible for partial loan forgiveness, and it's criteria that we publish on our website of what communities are eligible in FY26. But I can go into more detail on that later if we get into the Q&A if folks have questions. And so the purpose of the project, it's long-term financing for water quality improvement projects around the state. Like I said, it's primarily what we see is we fund a lot of wastewater treatment projects. Some new stormwater ones you've seen coming in recently can be related to brownfields as well. Some good examples are the Embassy CSO project. That one we fund $75, $100 million financing each year to support the work that they're doing with the tunnel project in Providence, Pawtucket, and Central Falls. And I think that's slated to come online, I think probably in 2027. And that will have a really good positive impact on the water quality of Blackstone River and then the whole Narragansett Bay by alleviating the stormwater runoff that would otherwise go untreated into the river and the bay. And a couple other examples, we do improvements related to water quality in Roger Williams Park, wastewater treatment facilities. Recent ones have done looking at doing financing in Westerly with Bristol, Narragansett, all around the state. But this is really probably it's the biggest program the bank has, and it's one that we're really focused on going forward and trying to grow in the years to come, and trying to grow the client base. So anyone's interested, I'm happy to answer their questions later in the Q&A, but I really want to emphasize that if you're in potential financing going forward for FY26, just make sure you get the application into RIDEM before the 28th. And I think I'll end it there for now. Thank you.
And Anthony, thanks so much. So much opportunity there. And I just want to remind folks, if you have any questions about any of the presentations, please put your question in the Q&A, and we will then get to those questions at the end of the panel presentations. Next up, we have Sean McCormick, and Sean is an Environmental Scientist 3 with the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management's Office of Water Resources. And Sean's going to be telling us about opportunities available through the office. Sean?
Thank you very much, Liz. Thank you to the New England Environmental Finance Center for having us, and thank you to everyone for attending. I'm going to briefly touch on 3 different grant programs that are administered through the DEM Office of Water Resources. The first is the Section 319 Non-Point Source Pollution Management Program and those implementation grants. These are funded by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and they require a nexus to non-point source pollution and also an EPA-approved watershed plan. They're typically done under a 60-40 grant to match ratio. And state and local funds can often be used to serve as the match in those circumstances. There's some uncertainty for the next round of funding. We expect to receive further EPA guidance on funding that's based on the continuing resolution. And the timing of our next request for proposals will be contingent on when DEM is able to confirm the funding amount that we will be awarded. We're hoping to have the request for proposals this calendar year, and we're looking towards late summer, early fall, possibly September as our target date for that. The next grant program that I will discuss is the Narragansett Bay and Watershed Restoration Fund, typically referred to as the BWRF. That is funded through a state bond, the Green Bond. It's been approved numerous times, most recently in 2022. And there's a group of projects that are currently underway that were selected through the request for proposals after that 2022 green bond. The BWRF was not included in the most recent 2024 green bond. So as a result, we don't currently have plans for an RFP. Hopefully it'll be included in an upcoming green bond. And at that point, we'd be able to have sufficient funding for a new RFP. And you can see there are some links on the slide to the different programs, but I'll also enter into the chat a link to the Office of Water Resources financial assistance landing page, and then that itself has links to each of the individual programs. And then finally, I will discuss a little bit on the Wastewater Treatment Facility Resiliency Fund. That is also funded through state bond in the green bond. There's one round of projects that are still ongoing that were originally selected in a request for proposals that took place after the 2018 green bond. And this grant program really focuses in on wastewater treatment facility and associated system resiliency in the face of climate change, and looking at fortifying wastewater treatment infrastructure or moving certain elements to be out of particularly flood-prone areas, and identifying areas where redundancies would be very valuable for emergency backup power, and other key requirements at those facilities. Similar to the BWRF, as it was not included in the 2024 green bond, we don't currently have plans for a request for proposals, but we're hoping that a new iteration will be included in a future green bond, at which point we would be able to offer another RFP. I was going to touch on one last thing on the BWRF. That's kind of our most wide-ranging grant program in terms of scope. Projects from the Narragansett Bay and Watershed Restoration Fund have included stormwater, non-point source pollution, flooding, aquatic invasive species, and habitat restoration. And so I will post that link to the financial assistance page at DEM in just a moment, and I look forward to discussing any of those programs further during the Q&A and the breakout sessions. Thank you.
Sean, thanks so much for that information, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that there is a non-point source grant round that is announced later this year. Next up, we have Devin Pincus. Devin is program steward with the Racial and Environmental Justice Committee, and Devin's going to have 5 minutes to talk about opportunities with his group.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Elizabeth. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here and for the opportunity to share about this grant opportunity. I have a couple slides. They are all under the umbrella of the Environmental Justice for New England grant program. I'm going to share 4 different levels of funding. The first is the seed tier, which I'll get to in a second. And then the next 3 are tiers 1 through 3, which are all for slightly different approaches. The applications for the tiers 1 through 3 are all the same structure. And then the seed application is a shorter, more accessible application. So I'll kick things off with talking about that. So the seed tier is for a funding amount of up to $75,000, and it is available specifically for organizations with severe capacity constraints, which is defined as comprised of 4 or less full-time equivalent staff members. So for example, if there are 8 staff members that are all part-time, then that still accounts as 4 full-time equivalents. Eligible applicants here include nonprofit and community organizations, tribal governments, and Native American organizations. And the idea for the seed grant is to really give organizations that do have capacity constraints the opportunity to receive funding through an application that is accessible. Often, applications for state or federal grant programs are intensive, and this seed application is shorter. And the intention is to be able to connect these community-based grassroots organizations to a funding opportunity that they might not have the capacity to engage with otherwise. Next slide, please. So I'm now moving into the tiers 1 through 3 applications. Tier 1 is a funding amount of up to $150,000 for 1 year. And projects in this tier are aimed at assessing a local community's environmental justice landscape. So some example projects include, but are not limited to, research that informs project design, sampling, testing, monitoring, investigations, surveys and studies, and engaging the community. So listening sessions, focus group, or other forms of gathering input from the community. As you can see from the name assessment, this idea for this tier is to really begin to map out the landscape in your community, so that you then could begin to implement projects with a greater degree of understanding as to the terrain, whether that be the actual physical landscape or the community terrain that you're operating in. Next slide, please. Tier 2 is for up to $250,000 for up to 2 years. And tier 2 is for planning projects. So projects in this tier should include plan formulation and partnership development activities to address identified environmental justice concerns. Example projects include partnership building, developing communications and outreach plans, developing curricula, toolkits, guidelines, developing social media plans and content, producing videos, building or strengthening partnerships and collaboration, training activities. So this is kind of, we'll get to tier 3 in a second, which is implementation grants. This tier 2 is kind of in between assessment and implementation. The idea is that you have a sense of what the landscape looks like in your community, but you're not necessarily ready to actually kick a project off, implement a project. This tier 2 grant is kind of an in-between space that gives you the opportunity to actually receive funding to start to lay the groundwork to be able to implement a project. So whether that means starting to build meaningful partnerships in your community, developing the curricula that eventually you want to be able to deliver to people, developing outreach plans so that you have a firm idea of what it looks like to get the word out into your community. That's what these tier 2 planning projects are aimed to address. Next slide, please. And then finally, tier 3 implementation projects will grant up to $350,000 for up to 2 years. And again, this is the implementation tier. So projects in this tier should support implementation projects informed by community planning and research. Projects may have educational and outreach components, but must focus on developing tangible community assets or providing defined community benefits. Examples include strengthening cumulative impact, public health or environmental justice protection, increasing access to healthy food, reducing the use of pesticides or toxic substances, cleaning up contaminated sites, conducting healthy home assessments, leading environmental justice educational programs, and creating community resilience hubs. So again, this tier is for projects that are tangible and that are able to be implemented and rolled out with this funding. All 4 of these tiers, the seed grants and tiers 1 through 3, the next funding deadline is Friday, May 30th at 5 p.m. We just recently wrapped up our first round of funding, which concluded on March 7th, and we're now in the process of moving those applications to the grant making, grant reading committee, and we hope to have those awards awarded in mid-May. Information on all of these grants, the seed grants and tiers 1 through 3, can be found at the web address at the bottom of the slide, environmentaljusticenewengland.org.
Devin, thank you so much for this great opportunity. And again, just if anyone's got questions, broad questions, put that in the Q&A. And then just as a reminder, we'll be having the breakout rooms where folks can actually go into a room. And if, for example, they have specific questions about the opportunities available here, you'll have that chance to talk about your project-specific questions one-on-one with the funders. So next up, I would love to introduce Joanne Throw, who is president of Throw Environmental, and Joanne's going to talk to us about the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation's opportunities. Joanne.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thanks to the New England Environmental Finance Center for setting this up, and it's so timely. So I serve as a field liaison for several National Fish and Wildlife funds, and I'm thrilled that this one is expected to come out, well, let's hope within the next 2 weeks. I was hoping to have a specific date for you today in time for this webinar, but anticipate it very soon, end of March, first week of April. Keep in mind, this is about coastal resilience, but Rhode Island is well covered, and I am in Bristol, Rhode Island, but Rhode Island, working nationally, is one of the areas I'm really focusing on for outreach. So I encourage you, this is only going to be 5 minutes to tee it up, and then I encourage you to stop in the breakout session and ask me more specific questions about this. But in general, last year we had about 140 million in this fund. We are looking, we're not quite sure on the total amount nationally available, but we are still looking for match to be encouraged, not required. So this is a very unique fund in that way that they really want to have you show skin in the game, but it's not essential to put in a pre-proposal. Again, pre-proposals, we're looking that they're coming out and due. They're only a few pages, so it's not a heavy lift. Sometime in April, they'll be due. Then you would get a potential invitation for a full proposal by July. All of that will be due, and they announce in November. So the exciting thing about this, and I've been working on this fund for 4 years, and this is my favorite because they offer every single opportunity from capacity building all the way through implementation. And, they suggest potential on average limits or expected awards. Doesn't mean you are stuck in that particular dollar amount. So there's a lot of flexibility with this fund. We're talking about community capacity, getting projects started, going through a site assessment, preliminary design, final design permitting, restoration, which would include monitoring. So happy to talk to you, not just in the breakout, but setting up meetings to go through helping you make a stronger proposal. Our time is offered free of charge. And we really help to make stronger proposals come in, especially from Rhode Island. So just looking at some potential changes that may be in this RFP, if you have applied to NCRF in the past, you probably have expected it to look a certain way. I encourage you to go back to the RFP when it comes out, read it, reread it. There will be some changes to it. We will not focus on demographics. You can put that in, certainly. You're welcome to put that in your pre-proposal, but it really is, what are the resilience impacts to the community as a whole? You know, how are fish, wildlife habitat benefiting from your proposal? And that part hasn't changed, and that's still going to be an emphasis because after all, this is National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. And really try to think about how you can engage the community in any type of project you're involved in, so that it doesn't get to the end and you're at the implementation stage and the community really hasn't bought in. But I know Rhode Island's great at that, so I'm not concerned. Think about how you could make your project be transformational and transferable. Is your project innovative? And then also thinking about the coastal area, we've got so many areas where we can focus on in Rhode Island. I know that, you know, a little brainstorming goes a long way. So I'm thrilled to devote extra time for for the people on this webinar. So I encourage you to join my breakout session, and I'll be answering more questions for you, but this is coming out very soon. And thank you to Elizabeth. Thanks for the time.
Thanks so much, Joanne. What a tremendous opportunity that is available there. All right, next up, I'm happy to introduce Tom Ardito, who's Director of the Watershed Implementation Grants. And he is going to be talking about the program affectionately known as SWIG. Tom.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Can everybody hear me okay? I sometimes have problems with my Zoom, but okay, good. I'm going to assume that many people on this call are familiar with SWIG, but in case you're not, you know, this will be a very quick but hopefully comprehensive overview. This is a grant program under EPA's SNEP program. And if you think of this SNEP network as one of the principal or the principal technical assistance component of the SNEP program, we are one of the principal funding components of the SNEP program. I work for Restore America's Estuaries. It's a national nonprofit. We have a cooperative agreement with EPA, so we manage this program in partnership. Having said that, the funding is entirely federal through EPA. We implement an annual grants program. Right now, our RFP is open, so I'm going to encourage you to go to snepgrants.org, and from there you can link to the SWIG 25 webpage, and you can read our RFP and read a lot more about the program. We've been around in this current formulation since 2018, so we've done we have done 6 award years so far. This will be our 7th year of grant making. The purpose of the program is to implement the SNEP strategic plan. So if you go to EPA's SNEP website and check out the strategic plan, I would encourage you to do that if you're interested in this program. The 3 pillars of the strategic plan are clean water, healthy ecosystems, and sustainable communities. And so that obviously covers pretty much anything that happens on the ground or in the water to restore coastal ecosystems, water quality, and the environmental quality of communities. So those are the things that we fund. It's very broad. You know, we've funded many stormwater, habitat, green streets projects, coastal adaptation. You know, we can fund any phase of a project. We can fund planning, design, permitting, implementation. We can fund combinations of those stages. So unlike some other programs, you could apply to our program for, design and permitting, or permitting and construction, or if it's a project that could be done in 2 years, because our grants are 2-year grants. You could fund, you could apply for funding from design through completion. We encourage partnership projects. We encourage innovative approaches, but we also are happy to fund more tried and true approaches. We seek to fund throughout the SNEP region, which I should have said up front, it includes all of Rhode Island. So for purposes of this workshop, any project in Rhode Island will be covered, under our program. We did a kind of an in-depth pre-application workshop yesterday online. And if you go again to snepgrants.org and link to the SWIG 25 webpage, you can find a recording of the workshop we did yesterday. But really, all the information that you need should be in the requests for proposals and the supplemental materials that are on the website. You can always contact me directly if you have further questions about that. We're glad to answer any questions that come up in the process of applying to these grants. I should mention also, it's a 2-step application process, very simple online letter of intent that is due April 18th of this year. Again, it's open now. And from those letters of intent, we'll select, we'll request full proposals. Those will be due in July, and typically we notify the applicants in July of who's been selected for a grant. We develop the grant agreements in August, and then in September we announce the grants. Depending on how fast we work, we all work, we can get those grant agreements signed in anywhere from August to early October. So anyway, I encourage you to go to our website, and I encourage you, if you're doing this kind of work, to apply for a SNEP Watershed Implementation Grant this year. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Tom, thank you so much for providing that information. It is a great source of funding for our projects here in Rhode Island. Next up, I'd love to introduce Darcy Young. She is Executive Director with the Narragansett Bay Estuary Program, and she's going to tell us about opportunities with the Bay Program.
Great. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, and good morning, everybody. It's good to be here and hear about all of these funding opportunities. We are one of 28 national estuary programs around the United States established as part of the Clean Water Act, and we're hosted by Roger Williams University. Our service area includes the watersheds of Narragansett Bay, Little Narragansett Bay, and the Rhode Island coastal ponds in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. In effect, that's almost all of Rhode Island. If you're curious to see if your location is eligible, we've got an interactive map on our website that I'll link to in just a moment, where you can triple check. We're currently a staff of 4, working to provide 3 categories of services that advance scientific understanding, management, and public engagement in watershed restoration. We convene people in working groups, committees, and events. We strive to provide useful, timely science communication tools and products to a variety of audiences. And the reason I'm here today, we make funding available for projects that implement the Narragansett Bay Comprehensive Conservation and Management Plan. We're very fortunate to receive annual funding from EPA, both through the National Estuary Program and the Southeast New England Program. And all of the opportunities we release are subawards of those federal funds. We do try to make our application processes as streamlined and simple as possible. And we're really committed to working with groups that might be new to the federal award process. We're anticipating 3 requests for proposals this calendar year. First, we have 1 open RFP for watershed outreach and education projects. That opportunity closes on April 11th. And we're seeking proposals for projects that engage people in watershed science and restoration. For example, in-school and non-formal education opportunities, community or citizen science monitoring activities, volunteer restoration opportunities, and more. We're very interested in unique project proposals for this RFP. Second, later this spring, we'll release an RFP for research projects that implement NBEP's research plan, which aims to fill gaps in scientific understanding of our region's urban estuaries, beginning with the Providence-Seekonk River area. And then third, we anticipate receiving funds this spring from EPA through the IIJA, and those funds will be released via RFP for pre-construction project planning activities. And that goes from partner and public engagement through to site-specific studies and assessments, all the way through to final designs and permits. We haven't yet finalized the topic of that RFP. We're getting close, but in past years, we've funded green infrastructure planning, habitat restoration and public access planning, and aquatic connectivity and aquatic organism passage planning, just to give you an idea of the types of projects that we've been funding. So as we look toward planning our funding opportunities for our next fiscal year, we try to reach out to communities about their needs. So I would really love to connect with folks in the breakout room or separately about your projects. We'd love to hear what's going on and what your needs are. So I'm going to include a link in the chat in just a minute that will link you to our website, our open RFP, and an interactive map of our study area, just to make sure that your project location is eligible. I encourage you to sign up for our email list via our website so that you can be notified about our upcoming funding opportunities. And I'll also include my direct email there as well. Thanks very much for the opportunity, and I hope to connect with many of you soon.
Darcy, thank you so much. We are running a little bit behind, but still plenty of time for our last, but certainly not least of our speakers this morning. And we have Caitlin Chafee, who's sitting in for Kim Koryath, who's not able to be with us today. Caitlin is chief in the Narragansett Bay Research Reserve of the Narragansett Bay Research Reserve. And Caitlin's going to be telling us about the Ocean State Climate Adaptation and Resilient Grant Opportunities and other resilient grant opportunities with DEM. Caitlin.
Thanks so much, Elizabeth. It's really great to be here with all these wonderful funding partners. And as Elizabeth mentioned, I'm here on behalf of Kim Koryath. She's the state's chief resilience officer who's based here at DEM. So the Research Reserve is a division of DEM, and Kim is based with us. She would be the main point of contact for the information I'm presenting here. I'm going to be talking about two state funding sources that are very similar and administered by DEM. And in the case of Oscar, which is the first one I'm going to talk about, in coordination with the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank, who's a significant partner in all of our restoration efforts at the state level here, as you've already heard from Anthony. So for the Oscar Fund, this is a fund that was legislatively established in 2021 through efforts of partners like Save the Bay. We just announced the first round of funding, which included 13 projects and about $2 million of funding. The fund itself focuses on projects that increase climate resilience, mainly through nature-based solutions, projects such as removal and relocation of vulnerable infrastructure, river and stream floodplain restoration. It does include acquisition and protection of vulnerable lands, things like culvert redesign and replacement. The common thread for this fund is really that the projects include co-benefits. So whether that's habitat enhancement or improvements to public access, in addition to that resilience benefit. The fund has an advisory committee that includes DEM, the Coastal Resources Management Council, statewide planning, and the Rhode Island Emergency Management Agency. The grants, again, are administered through the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank, so the advisory committee makes recommendations to the bank. At present, there's still $1 million available in this program, and we expect that there will be an RFP released this year. For this particular opportunity, there's no match requirement. And I think if we could move to the next slide, I'll move into the Climate Resilience Fund. So very similar opportunity, but this, the focus on this one is also improving climate resilience through nature-based solutions. This particular fund is managed internally at DEM, and the funding source is green bond measures. So there have been 2 previous rounds of this fund, but there is $2 million remaining to be awarded in this program. And we do anticipate an RFP release this year. For this one, there is a 25% match requirement. And Kim has worked really hard to streamline, since these two funding opportunities are so similar, and we understand the burden of application development, and have listened to feedback. Kim's done a great job of trying to streamline these two opportunities. And so this latest round, you're able to projects can be considered for both sources through one application, just by indicating that you'd like consideration under both sources. I think, and then, so I did also just want to note that to help with, capacity issues at the municipal level, DEM will be bringing on, we're currently in the interview stage of bringing on 3 regional resilience coordinator positions later this spring. The idea is that these folks will provide technical and grant writing assistance to municipalities. So each of the 3 will be assigned to partner with specific municipalities and provide capacity and support for those towns and cities that might have projects but don't necessarily have the capacity or staff availability to develop proposals. So those coordinators will not be on the review committee, so they will be free to help with proposal development if that kind of assistance is needed. I'm happy to, I look forward to connecting with folks in the one-on-one in the small group, but feel free to reach out to myself, or Kim Korioth with any questions. And thanks so much for the opportunity.
Oops. Thank you so much, Caitlin. And thank you to all of our panelists. The diversity of technical assistance and funding opportunities here are really very encouraging to be able to help folks get their projects started and take them all the way through to implementation. We have a few questions that are kind of broad in nature, and we'll take those here now in this Q&A. So those that came in through the Q&A and a few came in through the chat. But if you have, again, a project-specific question, please take the opportunity to go into the breakout room with the specific funders to be able to ask that question, those project-specific questions. And I'll be talking about how we're going to do that in just a minute. So to begin with the broad question, Anthony, this one is for you. It's from Beth Kimsey, and she asked whether about the timing for the MRP grant rounds versus the new loan program. Is it mid to late summer for both of them, or is it different for grant versus loan?
I can say definitively for the grant round, it'll be mid to late summer when that RFP for the grant specifically are launched. The revolving loan fund it may be active before then, or it may align, but we're working right now to see if we can get the loan fund in operation maybe over the next several months. But the loan fund's a little bit more of a moving target at the moment, but I would imagine it will be up and running just before or at the same time that the grant RFP is launched.
Great, thank you so much. The next question we have is for Joanne. And this one, I believe it's for Joanne. This is from Paul Culp, who was asking if the grant opportunity that you described would include a 25-acre pond. I think, and Paul, if I don't have that grant, if I'm directing the question to the wrong person, just please let me know.
Okay, so it depends. It's so much more than just saying if it includes a 25-acre pond. So you're looking at nature-based solutions in that area. I want to talk to you specifically about the details of what you're proposing, and what category you're looking at. So love to chat offline. I'll put my contact information in the chat, or you can certainly come to the breakout room.
Thank you, Joanne. We have a question, Caitlin, for you, which is who can apply for Oscar, and can you just clarify who's able to apply for those funds?
Yes, and thank you so much for that question. I kind of glossed over that in my summary. So eligible applicants include any entity which owns or controls public land. So this is an opportunity that's focused on improving resilience of public lands. This includes state and municipal governments, including quasi-public agencies and other public and private lands dedicated to public use as demonstrated through publicly held easements. So even if it's private property that has an easement that allows for public use, those lands would be eligible. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, one last question, then we're going to move into our breakout rooms. And again, I'm going to tell you how to do that. And this one is for someone at NEEFC. And the question is, does NEEFC charge municipalities for its advice? And what generally is the cost situation?
I
Martha,
can
or
answer that on
Oh, great.
behalf
Thanks,
of
Alex.
on behalf of the team and all of those initial presentations you heard from. So SNEP, NEWIN, TICTAC, and the EFC network. These are all free of charge to communities. We have grant funding to support this assistance. So there is generally no cost to communities to access these assistance programs. To keep it short, it's free to communities.
Yeah, amazing services. So next up, can we have the next slide, please? Okay, so we're now going to be moving into the funder rooms. So the links to the funder rooms can be found in the webinar chat. They were just posted now. You also should have received a linked PDF document via email. So if you don't see it in the chat, you can look at your email and find it there. And you're going to be able to move around freely between the meeting rooms by just clicking on the link for the corresponding meeting room. Everyone, you don't need to return back to this webinar when you're done in the meeting room. You can just, if you're done, you can leave, or if you want to talk to one of the other funders, you just click on that link and there you are magically in that room. So I think that is all I need to say. I just want to again thank everyone so much for all the speakers for providing information about your funding opportunities. It's really been a very informative session, and I think all of our participants are well equipped now to be able to apply. So there on the screen are the rooms where you will find the different funding funders. So pick your room and pick your link, and we'll see you in the rooms.